Hello, are you okay? After the summer holidays we've had, you might be feeling that the kids are really grating on you. They were for me this morning. I'm Michaela Thomas and I'm a clinical psychologist and couples therapist. I'm the founder of the Thomas Connection. And I found that even though I have all these tools, I have all these skills and this awareness around how children work and how their brain works and all these things, the kids were really grating on me this morning. So I grated on sweet potato instead, right? I'd found this recipe that I wanted to try these sweet potato latkes. And after my house was just made into a tip, because the kids were playing inside, it was absolutely pissing it down outside. So my son, who's 5, and my baby, who's nearly 1, they were sort of amusing themselves in the lounge. And I'd played a bunch of make believe games with them, thinking I was going to just top them up on lots of connection. And then I was just spent, right? I felt overwhelmed, realizing that I hadn't finished the lunch I was going to make. And no doubt they were going to turn their nose up at this sweet potato latke lunch anyway. But I thought I was going to cook something healthy for them. So when they were grating on me, when I started feeling a little bit burnt out, a little bit overwhelmed, and I don't mean burnout as in the sort of hitting the wall level of burnout, but actually the exhaustion that we can feel after so many weeks of school holidays. I was feeling my energy depleting, the battery going towards zero. And I thought, I'm just going to leave the room for a bit and go and do something active. So I stood there grating the sweet potato. And I used that as a strategy for being mindfully present in the moment. Reconnecting with what's going on in front of you doesn't have to mean that you have peace and quiet. That's just not realistic for me in that very moment to get peace and quiet, because the kids were making noise, as kids do, and the fan was going in the kitchen. There was just not anything to do with that kind of peace and quiet. So, what can you do to down regulate your nervous system when you're about to spill over, when there's no access to peace and quiet? Well, I wanted to give you a few tips of what you can do when the kids are really grating on you to get through the last sort of 10 days or so of the school holidays. And just pop a comment below if you find this helpful, and especially which tip you think you can try, because I want to make this accessible and easy for you. So standing there, back to the grating after the grating, and we can feel really grateful about how we can grate. Standing there with the sort of the grating iron, is it called a grating iron? It might be. I can then sort of really focus on the smell, the scent that comes up from the sweet potato, the feeling of just grating quite vigorously, right? That vigorous feeling can make you feel that you release some of the tension you might hold about the kids when you sort of like, oh, I can't take one more request. And like, I'm just using this sort of feeling to describe visually to you how wound up you can feel when the kids are doing your head in. So if you feel you still want to walk in line with your values of how you want to be as a parent, being connected or being present or being kind or whatever values you might hold, try some of these things to actually be more likely to have the outcome you want. So I'm going to go through a few tips for you. And well, the first thing I thought was actually, when you get so many requests, I don't know what your kids are like, but my son is an expert at finding the loopholes in my logic. He's quite bright, so he would just go and like, but you said that earlier, or you said I can do whatever I wanted. When he said, I don't know what to do, and I said, well, just go and play with whatever you want. And he said, well, you said I could do whatever I wanted, so why can't I play video games? And I'm like, I didn't mean that. I just meant like go and play with something. So when the kids are like that, when they run rings around you, they're quite quick at finding your weaknesses. And they're obviously not doing that to be manipulative, to be clear. Kids are not manipulative. They're just curious and they want to have their wish, their desire met, like all of us do, right? So we don't want to villainize kids here. They are not villains. But we need to help you look after yourself so that you can manage these multiple requests a day that you get. And one thing I often do is then, can I just step away for a moment, going into the bathroom or wherever, taking a few deep breaths to reset so that I can get access to my thinking brain and not just my emotion brain. So that way I can then think, is this a request I can actually say yes to? What would it matter if I said yes? Is it a principle that is so strong to me that I need to say no, right? So saying yes or no to the video games. But actually, when you're not allowing yourself that space, you might be more reactive and say no as a blanket to something that you actually could have said yes to, and then you paint yourself into a corner. So locking the door does help, or in my case, I tend to now say I'm having a poo, because he's learned in school that you respect people's privacy when you're doing number two. Now it doesn't always work, so locking the door also works. And then just taking just 20 seconds, going, okay, what's actually going on? What is it actually requesting? Can I say yes to it? Do I have to say no to it? What are the implications? So that's number one. Number two is when you are that frustrated, when you are that wound up, actually doing some really active stuff with your kids can channel some of the frustration out without running the risk of hurting them. Because when you go like, oh my God, I just said, okay, can I just like tickle them or be really vigorous with them? Can I roll them back and forth? Can I wrestle them? Can I, like, I'm just going to eat you up, like with the little baby. You can then still do something quite active with them when you're like, oh my God, you've scratched me 12 times now in the last hour. I'm just going to eat you up. And then you might just get some of that out. It's a tip I learned from my doula when I've had my first child. And when he was a baby, he was very intense. So she just taught me how, like, just vigorously tickle them. And that tends to shift your mood and connect a bit more deeply with your children. And they tend to love it because it's play, right? So that was number two, vigorous play. Number three is leave the house if you can. That you can both go stir crazy, both you and the kids, when you're in the house. So leaving the house means you also don't have to stare at the mess. You just go somewhere else on neutral territory, even if it's going into the garden, because a bit of fresh air and a bit of movement can get both of you into a better place. And then when you return back in, right, you've done something active, then a bit of TV time, and then you can get a break and sit down and have a cup of tea or something. It's easier to then focus better on whatever requests they might have. Number four is to try to set up a play date with someone from their class or another friend that they have, where you might also get on quite well with the adult if you have someone like this, because then there's two adults across several children, and you can then do turns in looking after them. So one of you can just go into the kitchen and make a cup of tea for the both of you. That's still a bit of a break, right? It's something else. And that means that they will have fun with someone who's on the same developmental level and can join in all these games that can be quite repetitive and boring. And it's okay if you feel, actually, I need someone else to take that for a bit. I cannot do any more make-believe right now. If you don't like that kind of play, then do the play that you do like. Maybe you're more into crafts, or maybe you're not into crafts and you can't stand the idea of Play-Doh in your carpet. Then go and get on your bikes. Or if you don't want to do that because you really don't want to go out when it's raining, then read some books. Like, do the kind of play that you can tolerate. And if you can't tolerate any of the things that they want to do right now, set up a play date for someone where you can actually almost like outsource all of that stuff to their playmate. You're still there with them. You're still facilitating for them. You're still being their safe space, but they get some of that out with someone else. And that's okay too. Right, so do let me know which one of these 4 tips you found the most helpful. Going away to take some deep breaths to regulate yourself, to consider the requests that they're making from your thinking brain, not your emotion brain. Number 2, some vigorous, active play to get the frustration out. Number 3, leaving the house, going somewhere else to get fresh air. And number 4, setting up a play date to outsource some of the play that you find boring. Let me know what you think. And if this is you, that you're feeling really, really overwhelmed at the moment, fret not, you're not alone. I am definitely feeling the burn of that as well, and can't wait for the schools to open again so we get back into our normal routine, and it's going to be more helpful for all of us in the family. It doesn't mean that it has to be all or nothing, that it's either, oh, things will only be good when school starts again, and it's only shit now. It's actually, can you be grateful for any of the good things you have had in the day? I did enjoy my make-believe play with them earlier. Even though the lounge was a mess, I did enjoy that, and that probably be the stuff that he will remember as kind of lazy summer holiday days when it's raining outside. We'd thrown all the cushions on the floor, made a mess, made make-believe. and just giving yourself that permission to leave all the tidying and all the mess. If you want more tips for this, comment below and I will reach out to you to talk about some resources I've got that can be helpful to calm the overwhelm. Right, take care of yourselves and I'll speak to you soon.